I had Colonel McGregor on a couple weeks ago, and I
Yeah.
think he brought that.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He brought that same question up, and you've heard it so many times throughout history. You asked that question about Vietnam. You asked that question about Iraq. You asked that question about Afghanistan. So many people have openly asked it, and yes, right now here we are. And you're like, well, what the hell does victory look like? I bet you couldn't even get an answer from that out of DC. And you've got the
Yeah,
Republican
you
side,
can't.
people like Donald Trump, which I guess 10 years ago you'd think this guy, of course he would want war. He's saying
Mhm.
the crazy thing is both Donald Trump and RFK, and I know you've had conversations with him, and we have as well.
Mhm.
They both said I could end this war with a phone call, and it's
That's
over.
right.
First of all, do you
That's
think
right.
that's true, John? Do you think both of those guys could end it with a phone call?
That's a tough one. Perhaps. I hate to be wishy-washy. I apologize for that. It's possible. First of all, let me say Doug McGregor's a dear friend of mine,
Okay.
and I have absolutely deep respect for not just his knowledge and understanding of these complex issues, but for his willingness to go out on a limb, even when his positions are unpopular. We need more people like that in Washington, not fewer. Doug was supposed to be the U.S. ambassador to Germany, and the Republicans blocked his nomination. Now, how ridiculous is that? I don't want to get too far off topic, but yeah, I suppose it would be popular if the Russian side were able to trust an American leader, and I think that they would trust Donald Trump and Bob Kennedy on this issue. I think that could lead to some sort of a settlement. And how ironic is it? How odd is it that it's the Republicans who have begun saying, look, we can't afford this over the long term. This is not a cost that the American taxpayer should bear. This is not a war that we need to be involved in. It's a war of choice. Why aren't the Democrats saying that? Why do we have the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez supporting appropriations for continued war, or Bernie Sanders, or Elizabeth Warren? I just don't understand the role reversal that we've seen in this war. It doesn't make any kind of sense to me.
Yeah, and meanwhile, there's like hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians dying. There's
Yes.
tons of money being pumped in, and I want to ask you about your theories on the wartime economy, because it comes up here for sure. And then on top of that, I don't know what you see in America, but here in the UK, you see a massive mainstream media bias towards Ukraine
Oh
being the
my
victor.
God.
I mean,
Oh, it's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. And I pull up the Guardian and the Times, and then I look at the New York Times sometimes, occasionally, I still do. And I just look at it and I'm just like, guys, I mean, if there's any tiny little bit of victory, they magnify it from the Ukrainians. And if there's any tiny slip in the Russians, they magnify it. Luckily, I get to talk to like guys like Jim Rickards and Colonel McGregor, and they're like, look, this is not the truth on the ground. And if you know that, you look at the media, and even the media can't sell me on it. So why do you think that's happening, and what do you see? Do you see the same thing?
Oh, I absolutely see the same thing. And the worst offenders are the New York Times and the Washington Post. You just can't trust coverage in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Like you said, they'll take the smallest setback on the part of the Russians and blow it up to, the end of the war is at hand. They'll take the smallest victory by the Ukrainians and say that, this is David and Goliath. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that analogy. In fact, when the Ukrainians had set out to begin the counteroffensive, which was actually several weeks late, it was the Ukrainian military that predicted that by this point in the summer, they would have moved 60 miles inside Russian territory, and they would have divided the Russian military into two in Crimea. In fact, here we are months after the start of the counteroffensive. They've moved 5 miles inside Russian territory. They're nowhere near Crimea, and they have not split the Russian military. Well, that's a loss. That's not a victory. But what was the banner headline on the New York Times today? It was an analysis of how Vladimir Putin was almost overthrown in what they're now calling the Wagner coup. Well, there was no Wagner coup. It just never happened. It was an ill-fated march a third of the way to Moscow that the Russian government was able to negotiate out of, and the leader of this coup attempt has been exiled. So rather than to focus on made-up patriotic falsities, why don't we tell the truth, the real truth, and encourage an end to this conflict? Why do the major outlets in the American media have to be cheerleaders for American government policy? That just doesn't make any sense to me. It hasn't been like that in the past, at least not to this degree. But this is what we're up against, where you just can't find reliable news.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.